Welcome to my steading, fellow fans of the written word. Back to more The Dragon Reborn. First, let's try to do a, well, quick question mark recap. So, Perrin, after the battle, he is woken up by Lan, who tells him that Rand has disappeared, ran away, what have you. Um, he gets up, goes to see Moraine, and on the way there, he has this intense conversation with Massima, who was one of the fanatical followers of the Dragon Reborn. Still is, I guess. And Massima is in despair because their lord dragon has abandoned them, and what have they done wrong to deserve this, as the song goes. What we see here is not so much about the aftermath plot-wise of what happens when they find out that Rand has ran away so far away, is parents' rising, I guess, commitment to resisting Moraine, at least in his eyes, to being much more direct with her. He actually returns her gazes most of the time. But yeah, then they have this short talk about dreams. And here we have an instance where I was wrong in my previous predictions. The sword, the magical crystal sword, appears to be shared. It's a shared dream. Perrin is not the only person dreaming of it. And we find out that it is a relic from Age of Legends that may be the reason why Rand went away? Question mark. It's one of the theories that Moraine proposes. It's a factor for sure. So, what happens then? Of course, a party is launched to retrieve Rand. And who is in this party? It's, you guessed it, Loyal the Ogier, Moraine, Lan, and Perrin, of course. Perrin is again, of course, annoyed with Moraine on the road because with his newfound defiance and feeling of standing up for himself, he is super against the idea of doing the dishes, apparently. But that's not so important. They go to a city, Jara. It's an interesting scene in this city. They find this innkeeper, and he informs them that they had a strange, unusual phenomenon of a bunch of weddings spontaneously happening in the town. It was like a mass hysteria. More than that, a bunch of white cloaks have behaved really odd. So we find out that apparently white cloaks can just abandon their order. So a bunch of white cloaks that were there made a scene in the city and they left the order. Some of them went to, I don't know, find the Horn of Valir. Some of them went to do their own thing, but they made a huge ruckus, made trouble in the city. And I believe this is important information. How important, I still don't know as of now. But it was interesting seeing because Jordan does say that, well, through his characters, that normally, usually, white cloaks do not leave. They swear loyalty to their order for life. It's not something that happens often, if at all. So there's this strange thing happening in the city. Um, and of course, we find out that Rand went through this city as well. He stayed very briefly. He played at a bunch of the weddings the day prior, but he was haunted by something, at least that's what the innkeeper says, and went on his way. And Moraine was, unsurprisingly, and I'm on her side, not happy with Perrin because Perrin was the one who snooped around and asked questions and revealed maybe too much about who they are and who are they looking for. Because it was not a stretch to conclude that Rand did come through there, because a Taviran of his, let's say, size, influence, it's bound to be that he went there and had some kind of an effect. Also, there's a very interesting, very telling scene. So, Simeon, the innkeeper who gives them a place to stay and reveals them this information, he concludes that Rand was mad, but he also accurately concludes that Moraine is a Sedai. And with this, he asks Perrin and subsequently Moraine if this Aes Sedai can help his brother Gnome. And what happens next is this Gnome character. He is question mark a former wolf brother, or a wolf brother in his final stage. I guess it's a variation on a theme of druids in stories who lost themselves so much to the instincts while they were either transformed into an animal or just communicating with one. Because here, at least until now, I was under impression that wolf brothers, they don't turn into wolf. They are like sense this very strong kinship on a spiritual level with them. But here, this was a person, a wolf brother, who kind of, I wouldn't say degenerated, but he was like almost catatonic. He has completely lost his humanity. And of course, Perrin is deathly afraid of this for good reason, because he's still haunted by dreams and he's still battling um, the, the conflict he feels. Is like he doesn't want to allow the wolves in, and at the same time he knows that they are his only reliable defense against the Dark One. And he gathers his courage and goes to have the talk with Moraine, which is something he wanted to avoid at all costs ever since in Eye of the World, when she looked at him and saw his yellow eyes and quietly concluded on what happened with him. So she reveals to him that there's still very little information about Wolf Brothers, because this is something that is older than the Age of Legends. What little research she managed to find with other sisters is that apparently wolves live on two planes of existence at the same time. They partly live in the world of dreams and partly in our world. Now, this also opens a whole lot of cans of worms at the same time about just metaphysical implications of the world of Wheel of Time. But I guess that's a conversation for another place and another time. What happens next is kind of surprised me. We have a scene of Rand hiding in a forest because the dogs are hunting him. Are they hunting him? I think they were. And he manages to kill it with one power. We find out that this is not his first attempt to do so, but it's his first successful attempt to do this, to use power as an offensive weapon. So we spend very little time with Ren. Now on to our group of Aes Sedai and Aes Sedai to be. Party that's led by Sedai, so Egwene, Nynaeve, and others, and Matt, who is unresponsive. They are heading to Tarvalon. And Nynaeve has, sorry, not Nynaeve. Egwene has a bunch of dreams, prophetic, non-prophetic, storm is coming, is it? That's beyond the point. But, of course, as the wheel wills it and weaves it, they encounter a bunch of, well, not a bunch, just a group of white cloaks. And Varen, who is de facto, I guess, leader of their small party, she is the most experienced and most knowledgeable one. She knows how to handle white cloaks, even though they're so close to Tarvalon. So she says to the girls, and reading between the lines to Nynaeve directly, let me handle this. I know what I'm doing. You keep quiet, and I will get us through this. But, of course, things turn sour. The leader of the White Cloaks starts questioning them. He threatens to take them to questioners to their camp to interrogate them. And Elaine, she doesn't have as much of a temper problem as Nynaeve has, but she's also quick on the tongue, and she can't help herself and comments that she is, well, daughter of the queen. And, well, the White Cloaks are not impressed. The leader, the reason why he falls from the horse is because girls, consciously or unconsciously, reach out for the one power and use it on them to subdue them. And that's a major no-no. It's a huge taboo. It's presented as this awful thing. You can only use power against the forces of the Dark One. Using it on a person is really, really unheard of. So they go to Tarvalon after being chewed out by Varen. And the chewing out they received from Varen is nothing compared to the Aemlyn seat. Because the punishment they receive is quite harsh. But it's not what they feared. It's like at some point, I think Elaine or Egwene, they thought that they could be even presented as heroes because, they managed to run away from the Black Ajah, and thanks to them, in their mind, Black Ajah is revealed as real, and so on and so forth, and they have Horn of Valir with them because I forgot to mention the Horn of Valir is with them because Moraine thought it would be much more prudent to have it in Tarvalon than in the camp. So the girls are talking to the Aemlyn seat, and well, a lot of talking, a lot of harsh words, a lot of Nynaeve losing her temper after the fact that they kind of got away with the whole thing. But essentially, the Aemlyn seat tells them that yes, I was aware that Black Ajah, even though I don't want to say it out loud, was a thing, and the sister in question was one of them, but you still did something very reckless and foolish. But still, I'm gonna raise you to the full sisters apparently. But don't think this is a reward, because you'll have your punishment of doing a bunch of chores, your studies, and you are tasked with hunting rest of Black Aja as sort of independent agents within um, Talvaran. Well, and one thing to add is um, there is this also instance, a short-ish chapter, I think it was chapter 15, with an assassin, the Gray Man, that they managed to defeat, that attacks the girls. But I think the main takeaway from this is they have the support from the Amelin seat herself, and they have gotten away with the thing they did, and now the real struggle begins. And on to the next segment, questions. Let's start with a, let's say, minor one. Maybe I'm dense and I haven't paid it much of attention, but there is a mention of Neverborn again. What is Neverborn? Don't want to spoil myself too much. I'm sure if it's mentioned once here, it's also mentioned in some different context in other books, but curious. Question number 2. So, regarding Perrin, one of the wolves that were kind of his first pack, part of his wolf awakening, he was Hopper, a wolf named Hopper, and he heard in either in his dreams, mostly in his dreams, his voice. So is Hopper alive? Because we do find out that partially the wolves are living in the dream realm and partially in the real one. Is Hopper alive, or did he die and became some sort of a spirit guide for Perrin? Because there's also this thing when Perrin and Moraine talk about the research, and there is this mention of wolves acting as guides in some instances. Other question about Rand. Now, he appeared briefly in these chapters, but dogs. How did it happen that dogs were hunting him? Why dogs specifically? I mean, the wolves are kind of hate everything that's from the Dark One. They really hate Trollocs and such. And dogs are relatives of wolves, even if they are distant relatives. So why were they intent on hunting him? Were they just a pack of wild dogs? And what about testing true power? Rand testing it as a weapon. We had this unfortunate scene when he almost killed half of the camp with his discharge of true power on the night of the attack. But what's with the, playing around with matches and fire? But enough about Rand. Another minor question. And this is probably a question that invites spoilers, but I still have to ask. So, Min has an ability to see auras and, visions about people's fates, their deaths and stuff. But we find out that Min doesn't see non-humans in her vision. She doesn't see Ogier. Why is that? Do Ogier exist out of... I don't know. It's an interesting tidbit. I'm sure it will. Maybe it won't. Maybe it's just a sort of a added flavor to the lore. Maybe just a fact of life of Min's ability that she only sees humans. I mean, that's a burden on itself, if not a curse or a gift. But I don't think she would agree that it's a gift. Another pretty major question. So there was this instance of the girls using one power on the guard, on the white cloaks. How did this taboo happen? How did it came to be? How did it start? Did the taboo of using one power against people as a weapon become a thing after the breaking of the world and disappearance of male Aes Sedai? Did it happen in Age of Legends before that? Uh, and what exactly did happen? It was pretty vague. What did they do? Did they brainwash him, or just, I don't know? It seemed kind of, I like the way it was written. It felt very wrong, but what's the reasoning? Another question, and this is a question that for sure invites a lot of spoilers. So let's just say this is a hypothetical question. Regarding the sword, we do find out that it's one of the many or few or one of artifacts from Age of Legends. So just how many of those are there? Are all of them known? Are they all chronicled somewhere or just mentioned in prophecies and songs here and there? It seems to me that they would be in high demand. I'm not talking about each one of them be on the level of Horn of Valir, but even a minor thing would provide a major advantage to a person wielding it if they can wield it. Another question, which is more of an observation, but so strange behavior of townspeople, weddings, and white cloaks abandoning their oaths, and just strange monkey business. Is this Rand's doing? Just Taviran whirlwind passing by? Did this? I'm just curious about the logistics of it. It's like, is it like a bubble? So huge bubble of improbability or probability around Rand. So even though he's still not in this city, but his influence is reaching the city and people start going cuckoo. Or is it something else? So maybe it's some kind of trigger effect. I don't know. One question regarding Emerlyn Seed. Why does she dismiss when the girls inform her about Shanchan and their ability to channel and all that? Because we do find out that she's a very well-informed woman, and I guess the account of Egwene and Nynaeve that Shanchan are a threat, and specific threat at that. Surely it's not the only account of such thing, because she did receive other accounts from other various sources. So why does she dismiss Shanchan from the start? Or is it just, I don't know, a red herring or something? Because it seems to me like it's a big deal, and she doesn't seem like an incompetent leader. Surely that must be of importance. And last question. What is a gray man? Maybe that's just me being dense again with Neverborn. Is a gray man a Neverborn? No? Whatever. Let's move on to what I liked. What I liked. I liked one major thing that I noticed, and I hope it stays through the rest of the series, is chapters are shorter and tighter. At first I thought I was just imagining things, and I went back and kind of skimmed a bit last two books. Really, neighbor, why are you drilling right now? I skimmed through last books, and they seem to be all over the place. Uh, and this seems to be much more tighter, much more tightly edited. Now, I'm not privy to the behind the scenes stuff. I know that, I think on one of the podcasts of Brandon Sanderson, he said that um, Jordan married his editor and that she was heavily involved with the process. So I don't know when she started to edit Jordan's work, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was the book where she started to have a lot of influence, because credit what credit's due, this is much more tightly written. Other thing I liked, I think the not I wouldn't say reaction, instance of Egwene using power on an enemy was well done, and the reason it was well done because well, it is proposed as this awful thing, and even if it was done against an enemy, Robert Jordan made me feel bad about this whole thing. The whole thing felt wrong, and I felt sorry for the guy, for the White Cloak, because it was a piece of effective writing. Well done, Jordan. Another thing that I liked. Now, if I were mean, I'd say that Matt being so weak that he lost his ability to speak was a blessing. But no. Instead, I will say that narratively, the fact that Matt was so weak and out of focus of the story, it allowed us to spend more time with the group of female characters. And their banter, discussions, just their interaction was well done. The road back to Tarvalin was well done. On to the less pleasant things, what I didn't like. Well, there are some head scratchers here. Bear with me. So, Emerlin says that whoever broke into the tower murdered several Aes Sedai, as well as servants, as well as warders even, to hide their flight. She specifically used those words. So someone did this whole thing to hide their tracks. Now hold on. How is this not attracting attention? How is this the best way not to attract attention? That's just stupid. Taking out major power leveled people, not counting servants, but even murdering anybody in the White Tower. How is this not attracting attention? Assassinating someone, sure. Taking out a whole group of people, Aes Sedai, and warders. That's like the complete opposite of being subtle, of not trying to be spotted. That's no. I don't like this. So another thing that kind of was also head scratchy. So Siwan, whatever her name is, the Emerald seed, she says this thing where if the whole knew that the girls are aware of like Aja's situation, they would be stilled. Why? Why would they be stilled? My last two negative points are about the character development. As I said previously many times, I really like Nynaeve as a character. I was just a bit baffled, words, here by her behavior. So she pretty much exploded when they talked to Emerald in the seat. And I kind of felt that was effectively stopping her character development. I'm not saying that she has to completely change who she is. I understand that she is who she is. But this was really, I think, not really, but a bit of out of character, because I would understand if she started to explode as soon as she came into the room and started going off about this and that to Emerlyn, but she was quiet for most of the time, and then she exploded after the fact, that she found out when she found out that no, they will not be expelled from the White Tower. They will not be stilled. They will not be cut off from the source. They will not be punished in a way they thought they will be punished. Essentially, they got away with it. And after she knows that she's safe, quote unquote, as much as she can be, she goes off. Why? I understand having a temperament, but this is just I'm weirded out by Robert Jordan's decision here, because also to expand on this, this weird vendetta she has against Moraine, where she goes and says that she's not sure if she can trust. She essentially says, literally, directly, to the most powerful, important Aes Sedai, that Moraine is not to be trusted, in her opinion. And she gets, verbal slap down and all that, deservedly. But where does this resentment come from? I'm trying to understand, because her behavior here is just hysterical, and I don't mean in a funny way, just actual hysterics. But having said that, I do like her, in the end, her resolve and commitment to finding out and opposing the Black Aja within the tower. That's great, but I would have done things a bit differently. But then again, I'm not a published author, am I? And my last negative thing was about Egwene, and this is a bit more general thing. As I said, I liked the banter interaction between girls when they were traveling back to the White Tower. But if in this one specific instance, Nynaeve kind of regressed as a character a bit, I think that Egwene has essentially stopped. She's like frozen. She does say in this conversation to Nynaeve, you need to stop shielding me from stuff. I'm not a girl, I'm a woman now. Sure, okay, yes, you are. You're an adult, but story-wise, narratively, I'm not seeing that much, for lack of the better word, meat. There's nothing interesting happening around her. Spending time with her on the page is not engaging. What purpose does she serve at this point? Remembering Rand and this other character, the half brother of the queen, of Elaine, and swooning. It just, I hope she gets stuff to do in this book, because she did stuff, not as much as I'd like. This was also one of my criticisms of the last book, but she did something in the last book, but here not much. What else? My predictions. I'll be quick because this is also already getting pretty long. And
Well, it's only a guess, but it's all I have to go on.
as I said, I was previously wrong about my prediction about the sword, so let's skip that. Instead, I'll just say that this sword, if Rand does get a hold of this sword, and I think he will, it will be a replacement for his Heron's Mark sword. Other prediction is, and I think this is quite obvious, I'm not some sort of a genius, that the dark-haired woman from Parents' Dreams, Visions, is Lanfear, one of the Forsaken. Um, Other prediction is, so there was this Aes Sedai that was sent to kind of monitor is probably the wrong word. Essentially, see that Nynaeve is uh, doing what she's told because they were kind of in a under house arrest before they were sent to talk to Emerald Seat. And there was this Aes Sedai named Faolain, this really unpleasant, arrogant woman. And Nynaeve, like a boss, managed to hold her temper for once and actually humiliated her by holding her tongue. And this woman did not like this. So I predict that she just made a long term enemy. Now, I don't think it will be quite as serious as, she will be revealed as Black Aja, but she might be a serious rival to Nynaeve, a foil even, and I think that's a good thing, an interesting thing. I hope we also spend some time with this Aes Sedai. And last thing I wanted to add, my prediction that will 100% come to be, and I'm not exaggerating. I predict that braid tugging will not only continue but intensify. Yes. Thank you for watching and see you next time.